All right. So, good evening, everyone. Tonight, our topic is looping structures. So, the whole idea is basically these bottom six. We want to get to a stage where we want to do the same line of code, but multiple times. Now, with looping structures, you get two types. You get conditional loops and unconditional loops. So, the ones we're starting with today is called unconditional loops. Unconditional loops, basically what it means is that we will, the program will do it a set amount of times. So the user doesn't have a say in it, like these ones. It's going to happen 10 times. Doesn't matter if I only wanted 5 or 7 or 20. If I click this button, it's going to do it 10 times. Doesn't matter what I say. This one's going to happen 20 and 10 and 15 and 25 and 5 times. So that is unconditional loops. And the loop we're going to use for that is called a for loop. So the for loop is the one that happens a fixed amount of times. So starting with loops, your question will always be, do I know how many times I want the loop to run? If your answer is yes, that means it's a for loop. If your answer is no, you don't know. So let's say I asked you to type in numbers, random numbers, until the total number or until the total of those numbers is 100. So then you don't know, because your random numbers, you could get a 50 and a 50, then the total is already 100 after two numbers. Or you can get a 20 and then a 25 and then a 5 and then a 30. So then you might need 5 or 6 numbers to get to 100. So that will differ every time. So that is a conditional loop, which we will call a while loop or a repeat loop. That's two types of loops. That we'll do later next term. For now, for this term, we're going to stick with unconditional loops, and that means it happens a fixed amount of times. So these top four is to just guide you as to what the for loop can do for you. Also, over and above just happening a fixed amount of times, you can count either up or down, and we can even work with characters going up or down. So I'm going to do the first one and the last one, then these middle two I'll leave for you guys to try just in the middle of our lesson. But let me show you the first one. So let's start with, let's say we wanted numbers 1 to 10. So I'm going to open that. So for this, do you agree if we want to display the numbers 1 to 10, those numbers are integers. So we create a variable. For loop, we'll generally always use I as our variable. You'll see the for loop automatically uses I. So let's stick with I, otherwise we need to change some stuff. So the variable we'll create is I, which is of type integer. And how this works now is you just type in for, and then you can press the tab key. When you press tab, it does all that for you. And there you'll see there's our variable I. So what happens here? For means do a loop for a fixed amount of times. Then it's using the variable I, and we're starting it at 0. So we're initializing I to 0. So I starts at 0, and then it's 2, and then 2 where? Where do we want to stop? So let's quickly look at what the button wanted. We want to start at 1, and we want to go to 10. So we want to not start at 0, we want to start at 1, and we want to go to 10. And then 2, and then you use the words begin. If you click enter, it adds the word end for you. Begin and ends like brackets. So everything in between here now will happen 10 times. So how this loop will work, so inside here, let's display to see what happens. So we can do our red display dot lines dot add, because we want to display there. And then in the brackets, I want to display my variable I. which is an integer. So I need to change my int to a string, and the variable I want to display is I. And then I put my semicolon. So what this will do is we're creating a variable I. I starts at 1. So then it's going to display the number 1. When it gets to end, it goes back. It checks. It makes the I a 2. And it says, it checks, is the 2 more than 10? No, it's not. So then it will display 2. It goes there, it goes back. I becomes 3. Checks, is 3 more than 10? No, it's not. It will display 3. Go there, come back. It will become 4. Is 4 more than 10? No, it's not. Display it. 5 more than 10? No, display. 6 more than 10? No, display. 7 more than 10? 8, 9. Is 10 more than 10? No, it's not. It will display it. It will go up. I will actually become 11. And then 11 is more than 10. So it won't do this, and it will go out of that, and then the button is done. So let's quickly run it. Okay, I get an error. I said other line. I entered. Let's play again. And there you'll see there's my numbers 1 to 10. So it displayed the 1, then it displayed the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It became 11. Became 11, which was then over more than 10, and it didn't do it. So that's how a for loop works. In this case, we displayed I because that's what we wanted to, but we didn't need to. We could have, if we wanted to, we could have said hello, just inside quotes. We could have said hello, and if I put that 1 to, let's say, 4. So what this will do is I will be 1, and then it will display hello. I becomes 2. Is 2 more than 4? No, it's not. It will display hello. I will become 3. Is 3 more than 4? No, it's not. It will display hello. I will become 4. Is 4 more than 4? No, it's not. It will display hello again. It will go up. I will become 5. 5 is more than 4, so it will stop and go out. So now if we play this, we'll see the word hello 4 times. So this will do it 4 times, whatever's inside. So for this specific one, we did one, let me just change it back. We wanted this. We wanted to see the numbers. So you'll always have a choice. You can display that variable you're using or not. It doesn't matter. So we can either display to see the numbers, or we can just say whatever's in here will happen 10 times. So that I can just be a counter, just keeping track of how many times the stuff in the loop has happened. Let's see another one. Let's do this last one. Characters from Z to A. So now I want to display characters. So unfortunately, or fortunately, a for loop only works with either integers or characters. It does not work with Boolean. It does not work with strings. So we can go create a variable I of type char. And we can go for, and we say tab. Then we can select this one. We want to go from Z to A. So we can put the letter Z there. And want to go to A, but now you have to remember that 2 means up. Do you agree? We don't go from Z up to A. We actually go from Z down to A. So if you want to reverse count, you have to just put the word down, and then that can be greater and that can be smaller. Then we do our begin and end again. Then we do our display. So we read display dot lines dot add. And now I want to display I. Remember, I is now a character. It's not a string, so I don't need to convert it. I can just display it. So let's see what this does. So now if I click on this one, you'll see it starts with the letter Z, and it goes right down to the letter A. So to summarize, we can use integers and characters. We can go upwards, so we can go from 1 to 10, or we can go down to, so we could have said 10 to down to 1. We would have counted down. We can also use characters. Only thing is we can't use double, we can't use strings. It only works with integers and characters to display them. Alright, so once we've got that, let's try this first one now. So I want a random whole number between 10 and 50. So let's just do that part first. So let's forget about the loop. I want a random whole number. So if it's a random whole number, what data type is that? Whole numbers or which data type? Yes. Perfect. Alright, so our random number we want to create is an integer. So let's do that. So ran is our math.random. And then what do we do in our brackets? Sorry, say again. So random, yeah. What do we do in our brackets? Yes. So our highest number is 50 minus our lowest number, which is 10, always plus 1. And then the outside, yes, plus lowest. All right, then let's do our display. So then we just go redisplay.lines.add. It's an integer we want to change to string, and we want to display our random number. Okay, let's quickly see how this works. So if we play this, I click this one, there's my random number. Every time I click one, I get a random number between 10 and 50. So that's perfect. Now, we want to do this 10 times. When I click this button, I want 10 numbers automatically. So step 1, I create my variable I as an integer. Step 2, I say 4 and I press the tab key. And I want 10 of them. So do you agree? I can start counting at 1 and I want to go to 10 because I want 10 numbers. Then I say my begin. Why do I want to do 10 times? Do you agree? I want to generate a random number and display it 10 times. So after that, I'm going to put my end. So can you see both of these two lines of code I put inside my for loop? So generally, when you create a loop like this, you indent so that somebody that reads your code can see these two, can easily see these two are inside the for loop. So my for loop, I starts at 1 goes to 10, meaning it will happen 10 times. What will happen 10 times? Generating a random number and then displaying it. So let's save that, let's play it. Now if I click this, there's 10 numbers automatically. So every time I click it, I get 10 numbers between 10 and 50 generated. So it's our normal random. Only difference is we put it inside a for loop. So we just clicked for, then click tab. We say start at 1, go to 10. So this is not, this is just an easy way to do it. I mean, theoretically, if I start at 0, do you agree if I go to 9, that's also going to happen 10 times. If you do this, and you click it, it will also give you 10 numbers. And if you started at 100 and you go to 109, it doesn't matter. It just means I is 100, then 101, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and when it gets 10, it stops. So this will also just happen 10 times. So this for loop is just for the counter starts there and it will get one more every time and it will stop when it goes above this. So it's generally just easier if we just say, okay, let's start at 1 and go to the amount. Then you don't need to worry too much about your maths and counting. So if I want it 10 times, start at 1, go to 10. And it will do this 10 times for me and display it. This thing. Okay, so I'm going to start with this first one. 20 whole numbers between 100 to 500. So my variables, which variables will I need? I'm going to count on all of you to tell me the answers. All right. Yeah, Milani, Shallow, tell me which variables do I need? And they are all of type? Yes. Integer. All right. And then what's my first thing I type? And then I press tab. Okay, then what do I change? I should start at. Okay, and it goes to. Perfect. And then I do my begin and my end. All right, then in between here, what do I say? Okay. Okay. 500 minus 100 and then plus 1 is outside plus 100 and then next line. Yeah. 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 Okay. Perfect. That's perfect. Well done. So if we run this, it should work. That one. And there we go. 20 numbers. Perfect. All right, then let's quickly do the other one. So this one, we wanted 10 whole even numbers between 10 and 50. All right, so I'm going to help us along a bit. So our variables, we know we're going to use ran. It's a whole store. So we're going to ran and I, both integer. All right, tell me, what do I type inside now? Yeah, I start. Yeah, I starts at. Yes. Okay. Begin. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So that's perfect except for even. All right. So how do we fix that now? Okay. And then okay, like that. What's wrong here? Who can help us? Bot maths. Yeah. So remember, if you put times 2, this will actually just make that a 10. And that's not what we want. So what do we need to do? So we go right after the equals, we say open bracket, and we go just before the times 2, and we close bracket. So that we first generate our random number, and then that number must be times by 2. Now this should hopefully work correct. Let's see. There, all even numbers. 10 at a time. Yeah. So just open bracket just after the equals, then you close bracket just before your times 2. All right, there you go.